Ladies and gents, welcome to Reaction, and this is how one boat just caused a $400 million an hour traffic jam. Really? $400 million an hour? That's how much you lost? This is the Suez Canal thing that just happened, right? So yeah, basically, if you want to transfer something from Asia to, I guess, Europe or USA somewhere, you have to go through Suez Canal. Otherwise, you have to go around the South Africa, and make a long term that would, cost you time and also fuel and money. Yeah, so Suez Canal is a pretty slim, small thing at the Egypt, I guess. Yeah, I've never, read much about how that came to be or any video on that. I have to, because that is such an important point. That event, like somebody just thought, let's do this. And that was one of the really important thing that happened, because it saves time and money to people. But something like this could happen. A boat just got stuck and basically blocked the traffic. Think of like this. You have one of your major country and one of the most busiest cities. If you want to go from one place to another, there's only one thin road between them. And if that gets blocked, entire country stops. That's how it was. But this is for the entire globe. So yeah, $400 million an hour makes sense. This from the RealLifeLore. I've looked at quite a few RealLifeLore videos already. If you haven't seen them, check out the cards. There's a playlist I created for it, RealLifeLore Reaction, something like that. Check out that playlist too, CGP Grey, playlist, Kazgazat, Internet Student, Salmonella, things like that. And yeah, let's watch this one. Remember, this is RealLifeLore video. It might get blocked, even though newer ones don't, so probably not. But yeah, if it gets blocked, I would put checkered box there, but I guess we'll see. Alright, let's watch this.
This video was made possible by Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. At the end of March, just a couple weeks ago, something incredible.
Wait a minute, mic was off. Okay, this is just awesome. Look at it. This is thin line that you can't even see until it's zoomed. And that connects from here to this side. Otherwise, you have to go and cross entire Africa. Oh, this is something, isn't it?
Incredibly catastrophic happened that caused the entire global supply chain of goods to be thrown into total chaos. And it was all caused by a single ship and 25 people on board. It all began with a cargo ship called the Ever Given, a new class of mega container ships that was traveling from port in Malaysia to the port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Among the largest container ships in the entire world, the Ever Given is roughly the same length of the Empire State Building in New York City, at 400 meters long. And since it's capable of carrying 20,000 cargo containers, it's roughly the same weight as the Willis or Sears Tower is in Chicago. It's truly a colossal ship, and the shortest route for a ship of this size.
Length of the Empire State Building. Holy shit. That's a massive, massive ship right there. And that's just one ship. Because of that, God knows how many ships like that got, stayed. So it makes sense. $400 million an hour. Especially at the times like this. Last year was one of the worst years for the economy. And it's just barely starting to pick up pace, and things like this happens.
Carrying goods from Asia to Europe is through the Suez Canal in Egypt. The Suez Canal was opened in 1869, and ever since, it's become one of the most important trade routes in the entire world. It offered ships transporting cargo between Europe and Asia a massive shortcut over the alternative of traveling all the way south around the African continent. Today, the Suez Canal continues to offer the quickest route for ships transporting the massive quantities of manufactured goods in China and Asia to the massive market of affluent customers in Europe. And as a result, the Suez Canal is big business. Roughly 12% of all of the world's goods flow through the canal every year, and on average, 51 cargo ships carrying over $9 billion worth of oil, gas, grain, and consumer goods pass through it every.
Only 12%. I thought it would have been bigger. Since, in Asia, basically India, China, lots of whenever developed countries basically puts overseas factories, usually in China and India, mostly in China. So places like that, when obviously lots of goods are getting transferred from there to back. So I thought they all are going through Suez Canal, surely. So I thought it would be much higher than just 10-12%, but yeah.
Single day. The canal is the primary reason for Egypt's geopolitical significance and one of the country's primary sources of revenue. Last year alone, generating over $5 billion for the country in fees for cargo ships passing through it. Entire wars have been fought over the ownership of the Suez Canal, and it's no wonder why. The alternative of traveling around Africa adds over 10 days of travel time and 3,800 miles to the average ship traveling between China and Europe, which means more money is spent on fuel, crew, and delays in getting cargo to their ports and into the hands of consumers. The Suez Canal is therefore an absolutely vital part of the global shipping industry, and the closure of the canal can wreak absolute havoc on this entire delicate, time-sensitive system. The canal has only been closed twice before this incident, and I made a video about one of those times, but this time could potentially be even worse, because global trade is bigger now than it ever has been before. Now, let's get back to the developing story of the Ever Given. The ship departed port in Malaysia carrying 20,000 cargo containers full of consumer products destined for Rotterdam, and according to the usual procedure, arrived at the port of Suez in the Red Sea while it awaited entry into the Suez Canal for its journey over to the Mediterranean, where it would afterwards sail along to Rotterdam. The Suez Canal Authority, or SCA, oversees traffic within the canal and, as usual, they place 2 official SCA pilots on board the Ever Given to help its crew travel along the complicated process of getting through the canal. But within hours of entering the canal,
Wait a minute, they actually put officers on board to make sure that they go through properly. So there must be a lot of ships going there. So how many officers do they have? Damn. And I thought it would be something like if somebody's new, maybe they do it. If somebody has went through that place a lot of times, maybe they let them go. But no, but what if there is some kind of a construction going or there is some problem somewhere? You can't, how are you supposed to tell the captain that? So obviously they're going to put officers there. Yeah, makes sense.
At approximately 7:30 a.m. local time on the 23rd of March, the Ever Given experienced a freak sandstorm event that obscured visibility aboard. Not only that, but the strong winds from the storm were pushing against the Ever Given's 20,000 cargo containers on top like it was all a giant sail. This ended up causing the ship to lose all ability to steer, pushed the ship sideways, and caused it to ram bow first into the east side of the Suez Canal.
No container fell off? Damn, if a massive wind like that comes and pushes the entire ship like that, some of the containers at the edges I thought would fall down. Maybe they're anchored in a way they can't fall down, who the hell knows.
This point of the canal is only 200 meters wide, compared to the Ever Given's length of 400 meters. And since it was now positioned sideways, it meant that this entire width of the canal was blocked, which, in effect, meant that the entire Suez Canal system was all of a sudden rendered completely impassable by just a single boat. Now, before we go any further, the Egyptian government has sort of been doing stuff to try and prevent a situation exactly like this from happening. They knew that as cargo ships have been getting bigger and bigger over the years to accommodate growing international demand, that eventually, ships would become too big to even get through the narrow Suez Canal. So, they knew in the early 2010s that something had to be done in order to increase the canal's capacity, and so, between 2012 and 2019, the Egyptian government initiated a more than $8 billion plan to expand it by adding additional channels at certain points. This meant that at these points, if a ship got stuck, it could be bypassed by other ships using the newly built.
I like how they put the turns there too, so if somebody has to back turn and it doesn't have to go all the way back.
Adjacent channels. Unfortunately though, these new secondary channels weren't constructed along the entire Suez Canal's length, and the entire stretch of the canal south of this lake was kept as just a single channel. Well, guess which part the Empire State Building-sized boat just crashed into? Yep, right here in the single-length channel, meaning that it was impossible for any other ships to get around it.
Yeah, I think they should, create another one here too. I guess it would cost a lot, but I guess at the long term, obviously they would profit.
Now, every single hour that this ship is stuck there is increasingly catastrophic for the entire global economy. $9 billion worth of goods travel through the canal every day, which means that for every hour the Ever Given is clogging up the canal, it's holding up $400 million worth of international trade. Immediately after the impact happened, 15 other ships who were traveling behind it pretty much immediately found themselves stuck as well. While, at the same time, around 200 more ships were waiting on both the north and south sides for them to clear the mess up before entering. By the end of the weekend following the crash, it was estimated that there would be over 300 ships waiting in line outside of the canal for entry.
Whoa.
The worst traffic jam of the 21st century has just happened, and it continues.
Did somebody take a photograph of that? Because that would be so epic. This gigantic ship's size of the Empire State Building, 300 of them just, waiting there like a traffic jam. Like, come on already, clear the traffic. Just like in the traffic jam at highways, they will just, honking on, pom pom. Come on, move it already.
To get worse and worse. More ships are arriving at the Red Sea and Mediterranean ports every single day, and while initially, the SCA allowed ships in the Mediterranean to enter and anchor in this sea within the canal, it quickly reached capacity and the entire Suez Canal was shut down for all traffic afterwards. It's incredibly apparent in these sets of satellite photographs taken by the European Space Agency over the southern entry point to the canal on the Red Sea. On the left, we have a photo taken on the 21st of March before the Ever Given became stuck, and it looks fairly normal. And on the right, we have a photo taken in the exact same place just 4 days later on the 25th of March, just 2 days after the Ever Given ran aground. You can clearly see the massive backlog of ships queuing up outside waiting to enter, which was forcing the captains of new ships arriving and old ships remaining stuck to make a critical decision. Would they continue to anchor outside of the Suez ports and just wait it out, hoping that it would only take a few more days to move the Ever Given out of the way? Or would they cut their losses and change course for the longer and more expensive route around Africa?
That's a massive
Moving
long
around
route.
Africa would add 10 days of unexpected travel times and approximately $26,000 per day of extra costs in fuel. But waiting around at the
Wait a minute, traveling all that, rounding up the entire continent of Africa takes just 10 extra days? I think it would be bit higher, wouldn't it? 10 days? I don't know.
Suez ports had an unknown time and cost restriction. After the ship crashed on Tuesday the 23rd, there were genuine fears among many that removing the Ever Given could have taken several weeks. And in that event, changing course for going around Africa would have been the better play.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if a ship decided to do this and got halfway around Cape Town into the Atlantic and then all of a sudden the ship was freed, it would have probably been a bad play. Nobody knew what was the right call to make, but every single
Yeah, imagine a ship did that. Went other side of the South Africa and crossed the South Africa, and they're like, all right, we're on the way. And some other ship captain just calls them, the stuck ship, yeah, it got clear. And we are already on the way. You suck. Just put down the phone.
day that the Ever Given remained stuck, the situation got worse and worse. The Suez Canal can only allow a maximum of 106 ships through it every day, and as each day passes, the number of ships queuing up outside just keeps building and building. Each day the canal is closed adds more ships to this queue, and adds more time for the SCA to process ships traveling through in the order that they showed up in, which effectively causes a ripple effect of delays. If the canal is closed for 4 days, then it'll take 4 days after them reopening to essentially just catch back up to where they were before the closure happened. In effect, this means that each day the canal is shut will cause an exponential slowdown in the entire flow of goods between Europe and Asia, and really the entire world, leading to increased prices on goods and fuel that'll be passed on to consumers. It's estimated that a closure of the canal for even 2 weeks could result in the stranding of as much as 1/4 of the cargo containers that would usually be within European ports by this point. And all of this is happening when the supply of cargo containers is already at an almost historic low. Because of the global pandemic going on that you've maybe heard about, the demand in Europe and North America for consumer goods produced in China has skyrocketed. And as a result, the historic continuous flow of cargo on ships from China has been clogging ports across the developed world, and combined with a shortage in availability of workers due to the pandemic, it's been causing widespread historic delays in processing and shortages in containers. Before the Suez even became blocked, the cost of shipping a container from China to North America had more than doubled since November of last year to the present. And as a result of that, many shipping companies in the United States were rerouting their cargo arriving from Asia from the West Coast to the US East Coast instead. Before the Suez closure, 1/3 of all cargo arriving to the US East Coast from Asia was traveling through the Suez Canal. And this is obviously now impacted as well. In effect,
okay, now I understand. All right. At first I said, there must be higher the travel time, but yeah, you could go through Pacific too, right? I didn't even thought of that. Yeah, man, seriously, the pandemic obviously caused the economy's downfall a lot. So now the demand must be higher, and at that point, this ship got stuck there. That must hurt.
Ever Given crashing into the side of the Suez Canal happened at probably the worst possible time, since there's an already unprecedentedly stressed global supply chain. The race to free the ship and unblock one of the world's most vital arteries at its most critical moment, therefore, began immediately. But it's been very difficult. Here's a bunch of photos that have been taken.
Yeah, this is not good for Egypt, This is not good because now the people would have suffered losses, obviously, because supply and demand always comes with the time. So that stuck ship cost lots of people multi-millions, if not more than that. So basically, people will start thinking about now, should we take other routes to Pacific or some other way? What should we do now? Because Suez Canal is shorter, but something like this could happen. So that might cause some companies to take other route. That would hurt Egypt.
Of the situation, it turns out that removing a big boat the size and weight of one of humanity's biggest skyscrapers that's firmly lodged into the beach on two sides of a narrow canal is actually a pretty difficult task to accomplish. Initially, the Egyptian government summoned a fleet of tugboats to the scene to nudge and pull the Ever Given out of place. But the ship turned out to be too big and too heavy for this alone to work. So, next up, they brought out a series of excavators to begin digging away the sand and the mud from beneath the ship's bow in an attempt to free it, but it was slammed in too deep. So next up, they hired a Dutch and a Japanese company to bring out some dredgers to essentially suck up the sand and the mud from beneath the ship's bow in an attempt to get it floating again and free from the bank. This was moderately successful early on, but the ship would ultimately be freed with the help from the forces of nature. Tides. The rising and falling of the sea is a constant phenomenon.
Humans are using all these technologies and dredgers and things like that, and Mother Nature's like, oh, you got to be kidding me, you're still there? Alright, here, have some water. There you go.
On across the world, and is obviously a force to be reckoned with within the Suez Canal as well. High tides will occur 12 hours and 25 minutes apart, and it takes 6 hours and 12.5 minutes for water at the shore to go from high to low or from low to high. These were the best windows for the salvage crews to work in to free the Ever Given because each time the tide rose, the massive boat stood a better chance of actually becoming buoyant again, and the tugboats used these to their advantage. On Sunday, the 28th of March, 5 days after the Ever Given had become trapped, the sun and moon were in alignment and their combined gravity resulted in an exceptionally strong high tide that helped the workers and engineers on the ground to finally be able to yank the ship free on Monday, the 29th of March. After being stuck and blocking one of the world's most vital trade arteries for 6 days, the Ever Given was transported up to the widest section of the Suez Canal up here and placed out of the way so that normal traffic could once again resume. More than 54 billion.
Anyway, why didn't just let that, the ship leave, or ship was damaged or something? Otherwise, why not just, okay, you're free, go out, go to the Europe or whatever.
Dollars worth of trade goods were held up or disrupted as an immediate consequence of the Ever Given's incident, a figure approximately the same as the annual GDP of Croatia. But as of the writing of this script, the situation still isn't over. As the canal was blocked for 6 days, that meant that hundreds of other cargo ships who arrived during that time were simply waiting outside to pass through. Even after the Ever Given was cleared out, it still meant a timescale of several days to process these ships through the canal and get back to business as usual. As it was, the Syrian government already announced that it would begin rationing fuel after the Suez closure delayed a critical shipment of oil, and Lebanon was forced to concede that if the closure went on any longer, they would have begun to ration fuel as well. The 6-day shutdown of the Suez Canal affected as much as 15% of the entire world's shipping container capacity, which led to shipping delays across the entire globe. And all of this global chaos was caused by just a single ship with 25 people on board. And it only lasted for 6 days. Just imagine.
I mean, it's a small canal, and in that, if you should pass the Empire State Building size ship, and it gets stuck like that, of course it's going to cause an issue.
How catastrophic the global consequences might have been if the canal was shut down for any longer. People are sometimes really, really good at creating challenges for other people to solve. But
yeah, here's the thing though. People have heard about all the plans of a giant, basically tunnels and roads people are creating to connect places. No trade is bigger than the ship industry. So the Suez Canal is the only way through without causing lots of delays. So why not lots of companies, countries, even Egypt and everybody combine together and fund a project to create another canal, or just Egypt do it if they want more revenue, and make another canal, dig out another canal at the side. So there's two ways. Both ways are not going to get stuck, because this definitely cost them a lot.
some people do it in a way that's a lot more helpful and beneficial than ramming a giant ship into one of the world's most important trade routes. Perhaps you have your own challenges you're facing right now for a big personal goal or passion project that you've been excited to start, but you're not sure that you have the skills required to do it just yet. Thankfully for you, Skillshare can help you out when you go to visit them next. When I started RealLifeLore just a bit over 5 years ago now,
yeah, people, go to skillshare.com/RealLifeLore 04211. Support this channel. This is an epic channel, obviously. Yeah. So obviously Suez Canal thing is quite recent. It's quite fast, man. RealLifeLore is fast. I thought, any creator, when they make a video about this, gonna take time, but no, he's fast. He just made a video about it. So this was awesome. Yeah, obviously a big ship like that gets stuck. That's a massive issue. Creating another canal side by side is the answer, I guess. It would cost money, but obviously not as much as if they would lose if something like this happens again. So yeah, that is incentive. Alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the description. Check out the cards for the playlist. Check out the end cards, and I'll see you next time.